Welcome back to this segment where we are having tea with a strong believer of a woman having more than 7 streams of income. And today we are being empowered on different ways on how we can also get our own 7 streams of income. What can you say to those people who get redundancy and are worried, like now due to COVID, a lot of jobs, they've lost a lot of jobs, they've been made redundant?
So I got made redundant in 2012. I remember specifically because there was the Olympics at the time. So I enjoyed watching the Olympics from home because they were in London at the time. But what I would say is it's not the end of the world, and it's probably a time for you to reflect and see how you could do things differently, and how you can sort of like think outside of the box, because sometimes when you're stuck in a job, you're just chasing after your tail, running around, home, work, and children, or whatever else other commitments you have. So it's sort of like a time for you to stop and reevaluate and just try and think outside of the box on how else can you pick yourself up again. So I guess for me, it was that time, it was the beginning when I started to sort of like reflect and think, what else can I do? How else can I fulfill my life without just being defined by a job? Because very often people end up being defined by a job or a profession. And yet that's not what makes you the person that you are. You need to define yourself by more than just a job.
What has been the most challenging thing about running all these multiple businesses which you run?
I guess it's staying on top of everything, and making sure stuff doesn't slip, and you don't miss stuff, and leave things undone. Yeah, it's just juggling everything really. That's the main challenge.
Any personal sort of trials, tribulations of throughout this journey of investments and monetizing stuff?
Yes, I mean it is a competitive industry, but so you will have a few knockbacks trying to get into something new, break into a new industry. But all I can say is don't give up. If you strongly believe in something, you just have to, for every knock that you get, pick yourself up and just keep trying, and eventually things do work out. I mean, even in the corporate world, I've had knockbacks being a young black woman. It hasn't been easy. I started off from a small company and quickly rose to assistant director roles within, big American banks or big Swiss banks and stuff like that. So you have to hold your own and, fight for your recognition, because sometimes you're in a boardroom and you're the only female, or you're the only black person as well in there, and being quite petite in stature, and soft-spoken, people can sometimes mistaken that for a sign of weakness. But it's actually not. It's just you talk when you need to talk, and you talk only when you have something sensible to say. So that in itself can be mistaken as, oh, she's, sort of being overlooked or whatever.
Despite all this, what inspires you to keep going?
It's the possibility of having a successful end that keeps me going. It keeps me motivated to know that I've succeeded in something. Yet again, I always draw it back to my projects, work. I enjoy closing off a project well. And every business to me is a project. Until it's running by itself, it's a project. And I enjoy that challenge of putting something together and seeing it come to fruition at the end. That keeps me going. And I guess some of it as well, I do it for my children, I came to England, I've had to work for everything I've got, but I want to lay a foundation for them so that they also are not starting from scratch where I was starting.
What are the 2 practical lessons you can give women out there? 2 things which you want them to remember. I know you've got the multiple streams of money, the lady who talks about money, making money. Yes.
I guess it's plan your things properly, do all your due diligence, do all your checks, make sure you have things in place. But also don't shy away from taking risks. I'm not saying be a massive risk taker, but don't be too conservative and too anxious to lose out. Because I'm sure if you look at very successful people, they've had 10 other businesses that didn't succeed and one that really made them be who they are. But if they hadn't tried, they wouldn't have got to where they are. So I would strongly advise people to try.
So we need to take risks. We need to push ourselves to try and take that and do something different. Yeah. Wow. It has been a pleasure having tea with you. And Madzimai Mazinzwira, you've got to focus. Guys, sekho leso sikhathi sokutshona uhlezi nje ungomama. Nangu Karen. Namuhla sizwile ngendaba zokuba le 7 streams of money. I challenge you today, how many streams of income do you have? And we've heard from Karen, an investment banker who does projects and who's willing to empower women on investments and spreading their wings around. And one thing I take from Karen's discussion today is about partnerships. Let's stop being selfish. And above all, let's stop doing those conversations which have no money. Let's monetize our talks. Let's not have useless conversations and arguments which are not profitable to us. I have learnt now that I mustn't be making noise without making the money. So I'm sure you can learn from Karen. It was a pleasure having you here. And we look forward to seeing you next time again. I don't know whether this time you'll be having 10 streams of money, but I'm surely taking your lessons into practice. And eventually I'm going to share with the world how you have mentored me into establishing a successful business. Siyabonga, tinotenda, and thank you for having tea with us.